there was a guy called Jimmy Swaggart. He was a rich guy. This is his story. That's the actual picture of the guy, or at least how he looked in the 80s. Now he looks like this. Usually people become rich being an entrepreneur, or working yourself up to become a CEO with a big salary. But this man got it easy. He defrauded millions of innocent Christians and pretended to be an angel while he actually was the devil incarnate. This crook was a televangelist, drawing faithful Christians to send him money. He was living a life of a billionaire, with money innocent Christian hopefuls sent him as donations for prayers and spreading the gospel. Jimmy Swaggart wasn't just any televangelist, he was at the top of the game. By the mid-1980s, his ministry was pulling in an astronomical $150 million every year. But Swaggart's empire needed to keep that money flowing. It's reported that at the height of his ministry, Swaggart required $1 million per day just to sustain the lavish operations of his church, TV network, and himself.
But what exactly was all that money being used for? While his followers were donating out of faith, believing their contributions were spreading the gospel, much of it was funding Swaggart's extravagant lifestyle. Behind the pulpit, Swaggart was a man of wealth living far from the humble life that he preached to his audience. Swaggart owned a private jet, a symbol of the wealth he had accumulated through donations of innocent Christians. He frequently traveled the world in luxury, flying in style while spreading his version of Christianity. He also had a fleet of luxury cars, including high-end vehicles that most of his followers could never dream of owning. Despite his outward message of humility and devotion to God, Swaggart lived like a king. It wasn't just his jet-setting lifestyle that was excessive. Swaggart lived in a sprawling mansion in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where he and his family resided in comfort while many of his followers struggled to make ends meet. His lavish life was a stark contrast to the modest, humble values he claimed to uphold. In 1987, his world started to unravel. Jimmy Swaggart, the man who claimed to preach the Word of God, was exposed for visiting a prostitute in New Orleans. The news was a bombshell. Swaggart, who had publicly condemned sin and immorality, was living a sinful life of his own. The hypocrisy was staggering. He was visiting a prostitute regularly. They were caught red-handed in a car, and the woman went on to being interviewed on TV exposing Swaggart. And what did Swaggart do? He went on television, facing millions of his followers, and cried. Tears streaming down his face, he said the famous words, "I have sinned against you, my Lord." But the apology wasn't just insincere, it was a calculated move. Swaggart's performance was meant to save face and protect the millions of dollars his ministry brought in each year. The fake acting was so obvious, but the naive people swallowed it. The guy is still preaching despite getting caught again after his utter bullshit apology. Just take a listen of this utter nonsense.
To me, I have sinned against you, my Lord.
Oh, Jesus.
And I would ask that your precious blood would wash and cleanse every stain until it is in the seas of God's forgetfulness,
Get off the stage!
never to be remembered against me anymore.
Hello!
However, despite his tearful plea for forgiveness, it soon became clear that nothing had changed. In 1991, just 3 years after his public apology, Swaggart was caught again, this time in California, with another prostitute. His response to this second scandal was even more arrogant. Instead of showing remorse, he told the press, "The Lord told me it's flat, none of your business." That was Jimmy Swaggart in a nutshell, a man who used religion to mask his sins, and when caught, showed no real remorse. Let's not forget Swaggart's ministry was a financial machine. At its peak, it was one of the most successful televangelist operations in the world. But it wasn't just about spreading the word of God. It was about maintaining Swaggart's luxurious lifestyle. His private jets, Luxury cars and mansions didn't come cheap, and his constant need for massive donations was essential to keeping it all running. But after his scandals, the empire began to crumble. The ministry's revenue plummeted from $150 million annually to just a fraction of that. Though he continued preaching, the damage was done. Jimmy Swaggart was no longer the undisputed king of televangelism. And yet, incredibly, his ministry still survives today. Despite the multiple scandals, Swaggart continues to lead the Jimmy Swaggart Ministries in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. His family, including his wife Frances and son Donnie, remain heavily involved in the operations. They still preach to a new generation of followers, who may not even know the full extent of Swaggart's hypocrisy. Though his influence has waned, the money keeps coming in proof that even after being exposed, Swaggart was able to rebuild his empire. So, who is Jimmy Swaggart really? Is he a man of God, as he claims to be, or is he a charlatan, a man who used the faith of millions to enrich himself while living a secret life of sin? His private jets, luxury cars, and million-dollar-a-day ministry suggest the latter.
Swaggart's legacy is one of deceit, corruption, and hypocrisy. He built an empire on the backs of Christian worshippers, only to be exposed as a fraud. Today, his ministry may still be standing, but his reputation is forever tarnished. The world knows the truth. Jimmy Swaggart is not a man of God. He is a man of greed, scandal, and lies. If you like this kind of story, click like and subscribe. More to come. And also check out our other videos. And don't fall for fake people like Jimmy Swaggart.